So after the Truffle 100, we will now switch to an industry panel of software specialists and software industry players, which, guess what, are part of the Truffle 100 and can help us understand the success factor of the software industry, especially the success factor to build a worldwide and a world-class player. I have on my side three panelists. I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Guy Berroyer from Sage.
3 data points to introduce Sage. We're a 1.36 billion euros company, and in the Truffle 100 you see another number because the other number is 2005. We published our 2006 numbers a week ago. So that's a 20% growth year over year, and we're a FTSE 100. The second number, second data point, we derive almost half of our revenues from North America. And I think it's a very important factor to assess the success of a worldwide software company, especially when it originates in Europe. And the third data point is we have 5 million companies in the world who use our software. So that's pretty obvious that we target the small and medium-sized enterprises, not the big ones. And that's all around the world.
I will intervene into BL here. First, of course, as is Syntec, as before, regarding the overall software industry. A few words on Business Object, maybe. So Business Object is a worldwide leader of the business intelligence. We are in the market since 16 years now. It was founded by an entrepreneur, Bernard Liuto. And it's a true story, a true software story, a garage story, I would say. And we got 6,000 people across the world. Similar to Sage, more than 50% of revenue are located in the US. And I would say that our center as well is more in the headquarters and operational corporate members are more in the US today, as we acquire a lot of more US-based company. And from an R&D standpoint, we have 1,600 developers. They are in 3 continents, which is pretty obvious today for the software industry, but it was not before. I will say 3/3, 1/3 in France, 1/3 in the Americas, based in Canada and Vancouver and in other arena of America. And the third piece in the India and Shanghai, as well as we are becoming a worldwide player, and we have to release our product in 8 different language tier 1, and as well in combination of 25 stack, meaning we have 5 OS, 5 databases, 5 web server, and we are releasing our products, making all the CMMI regulation as well in terms of quality assurance in 8 tier 1 languages, and making clear that the 25 combination of stacks are well defined. So meaning it's a true challenge in terms of R&D and go-to-market in terms of introduction. So it's only that, and we are proud to be the worldwide leader of the business intelligence as a pure player, making 60% more than the second one.
Bart Meers from Agoria. Agoria is the Belgian federation. Don't look for us in the list of the top 100. We are the Belgian Federation of the Technology Industry, and I'm here as a representative of that federation because all the ICT companies are represented also by Agoria. We represent 13 sectors. ICT is one of those sectors. So that is why I'm here today to represent the sector ICT.
I'll start with the key role of the software industry. Could you elaborate, each of you, why software is so critical in the industry in general and in Europe in particular? It's pretty obvious in the United States that it has been a key driver of what people call the knowledge economy or the information society. Could you comment on how software is critical and why?
I think it's important to say that software is everywhere today. So software is visible in application software, but also in embedded software that is in all types of products, going from a microwave oven to anything else. If you look at a car today, you see that it's full of software, full of also embedded software. And third of all, software plays a crucial role as enabler or enabling technology to do things that you couldn't do 10 or 20 years ago. So for an innovation perspective, software is very crucial. If you think at building an aeroplane or a great cruise liner today, that is possible in a time frame that was not feasible 10 or 20 years ago, because now you can have teams working together 24/7, and that is all feasible and possible thanks to software. So I think when you look at innovation, software plays a very crucial role there.
There's a great thing with the software industry is it's very entrepreneurial today, still, after 20 or 30 years. There are 18,000 companies in Europe. A lot of them get created. And of course, no software company gets created if you don't have already a software industry, because you need know-how and knowledge to create a new software company. So the mushroom effect and the growth effect, because of the entrepreneurial nature of the software industry, it's very significant, very crucial to have in Europe a strong software industry because of that.
Three answers to your question. So first of all, the software industry, it's really creating value for our customers. And we have really a strong discrepancy between the US and Europe. In the US, 5% of the investment is due to ITC, and we are contributing, the software has contributed a lot to this 5%, and in average in Europe it's between 1 to 2%. So we have really a 3% gap, which is huge if we compare in terms of the overall revenue of our customers. The discrepancy between US investment in technology and European ones. And in this knowledge economy that you mentioned before, it's pretty obvious and pretty crucial that we will not create job in textile. We will create job in rich value and to create a very high level job to stay, and not us, our customers. Really, the challenge is for our customers to stay really competitive in the worldwide competition. So it's point number one. Point number two, it was already mentioned before to the prior panelist discussion that it's a growth industry. 15% growth due to the top 100. It's 5 times more than the average of GNP of the economies in Europe. So, I mean, it's pretty significant to have an industry which is growing 5 times more than the rest of the industry. And third, it's a rich content industry because it's R&D. The R&D employment is pretty significant. In average, it's 15 to 20% of the revenue of a software vendor. Bernard Louis-Roch mentioned before that it's 30,000 jobs in R&D, which is pretty significant. And if we would like to have jobs for our engineers and to really create value, it's pretty significant that the R&D side, it's really, really crucial. So to me, there's this triangle that really making the software industry ahead is size regarding the rest of the economy, one of the drivers of the knowledge economy.
Now a question about how Europe can compete. You know, being the publisher of the magazine Décideur, I keep hearing stuff about the US software company being better financed, with better valuation, better understood by public official, though it may change now, and having a more stronger and bigger critical mass. In terms of how to succeed and how to make the European software industry succeed, but I think the micro level as well as the macro level is interesting in your case since you're entrepreneurs and software executives.
I think there are many software companies in Europe, I should not say in Europe, in each countries, which are quite successful in one segment in one country. And I think it's quite crucial to see how this particular type of company can then switch to becoming a more global company. And that's very difficult. Many companies disappear when they try to do that, or many companies just don't have the vision, the resource, or the will to do that. So I'll just take the example of our company, Sage, how we went to the US, because, you know, examples are still valid. So in 91, Sage adapted its accounting software from the UK to the US and launched it in the US. It was about 18 months later, it turned out to be a significant failure. Good start. Well, at the same time, Sage acquired a small company in France called Ciel. For those of you who are French, you will know. And that acquisition turned out 18 months later to be quite a success, because Sage brought in some management techniques and marketing techniques into the business. So then Sage changed its point of view and concluded that in our particular industry, accounting software for SMEs, exporting software may not be the best way to go global. So then in 96, 97, with more financial power, Sage undertook to acquire companies in the US. So we went the acquisition route after trying to establish ourselves with our UK-based software and failed. So we learned as we failed, but then we changed our strategy on a pragmatic basis. By 96, 97, our capital base was significant. We were able to borrow money from banks. Our cash flow was significant enough. And we undertook in the course of 5 years to build a business which is now next year going to be $1 billion only in North America. So that's one of the ways, but it required access to capital markets. In that case, we went the debt route because we were profitable enough in our home market. And the vision of how we could do and how we could deploy our strategy of acquisition and be successful with that. And that's how we've made it. And as you will hear, I'm sure, from my colleague of Business Object, different models can succeed in different segments of the industry.
Three or four ingredients to be successful in the software industry, and I will cover another one. For those of you that are not really familiar with the software industry, traditionally we are combining 3 or 4 ingredients. First, a true innovation, of course. Second, a management team which is really capable to step up and to be worldwide. And third, to be highly funded and to access to different market segments regarding the different thresholds. Say that, the traditional 3 ingredients. I'm pretty sure that Bernard Louis or his colleague, when he's really making due diligence regarding new entrepreneurs, are going to these 3 major angles. But more significantly to me, we are lacking in Europe of icons, role models. And we don't have students here. First of all, we don't have the equivalent Stanford, which is a real campus that combining research, funding, and entrepreneur, which are still reinvesting in the campus and in the entrepreneur. And we are not making students dreams about role models, about icons that they could dream in the US regarding Google founders or whatsoever, that even today, in the new generation of companies, I'm not referring to the 10 years or 15 years story, but even today are dreaming about capability, possibility to do it. And to me, beyond the 3 ingredients, which is quite traditional, we are lucky in Europe of 3 or 4 large campuses, similar to Stanford, capable to really making the dream happen, and as well 1 or 2 icons that could be act as a role model. And to me, it's more in the spirit, in the role model that we have to work, because in theory, to be worldwide, to be innovative, to have a management structure, in theory, we know how it works. But it's one thing to know how it works, it's the other one to execute and to have really example or role model.
If I hear correctly, we already have 4 ingredients. Now it's my turn to find the fifth ingredient, and I believe there is a fifth ingredient to be successful in Europe for software companies. And that fifth ingredient is networking and collaboration. It was a topic that was already mentioned also by the commissioner a few minutes ago. And we at Agoria believe that this is very crucial for companies, that they work together, they join forces. In that way they can also reduce a number of costs, and they can combine their strengths when they go to another market where one company perhaps detains one piece of the puzzle and another company detains another piece of the puzzle. This is a way that has been proven successful also within Agoria. We have set up several platforms and business clubs where we join companies together with a specific focus. We have done that for the medical market with the e-health platform, where we have, I believe, about 70 companies together that are developing new products and services for the healthcare sector. And there you see that these companies put the pieces together to build new innovative applications. Similar things we are doing for the banking sector, where we have companies that are focusing on that. And in the coming years, we will create new platforms also for ISVs that will enable the same thing, and where Agoria tries to be a catalyst to promote networking and to facilitate companies that want to go abroad and to do business internationally.
I want to comment on the fact that there's a sixth ingredient, and it's the venture capital community. First, because we're here on behalf also of Truffle. Truffle is also, as you may know, Truffle Ventures, which is one of the new and emerging leaders in Europe for software investment as well as biotech investments. You've mentioned Stanford. It's also well known that Stanford has a road that goes to Stanford, which is called Sand Hill Road. Sand probably for the chip industry as well. And where all the VCs are lined up, and they just have to, you know, just make a couple meters to fund a great computer science entrepreneur or a great MBA or a great researcher. So maybe I can ask Bernard Louis-Roch to comment on software, because he has 15 years of experience about how to make it work before joining Truffle.
Yeah, as an investor, I must say I very much like the software industry. This is an industry where you can create a company and generate revenues not long after and grow rapidly. And I've been investing in the software industry for quite some time now. I've done 16 IPOs, and I'm quite happy that I see there is a strong dynamism in this industry. Young entrepreneurs are still flooding. Now that the bubble has exploded, there's a new generation of entrepreneurs that are coming in with business plans. There is innovation, and it is a very interesting industry. So it is true that Europe is not matching the United States, but we're still doing some good things and progresses.
One of the very interesting things with software is it's scalable. So when you've made the first investment, then you know the margins are high enough to fuel growth for those who are who dare and dream. Last question is the evolving business model in software. Evolving business model with the impact of technology, of hosting on the web and ASP, the impact also of evolving financing model and customer cost with free or so-called free software and paying software, and the blending of both. Who wants to start with the evolution of business models and structures of the software?
Business model in the software industry are likely to change. Not so much, because software vendors traditionally have to protect the traditional business and to transition to the other one. So traditionally they will invest where they are the weakest in the segment, and not to compete and to cannibalize in a way the traditional business. But we saw interesting stories the last year. Of course, most well known in Salesforce.com in the CRM industry, resulting for the Truffle 100 that we have made in France and followed by a deeper investigation in the industry, we just realized that 15% of the software vendors, number of software vendors, are dominantly ASP-based or new, what's so-called SaaS, software as a service minded. So it's pretty significant in terms of number of industry. And when we cross-check the indicators, many of them are adopting as well double sourcing regarding the technology, mixing up commercial sourcing and open sourcing, which is, of course, it's appealing new concern about patent and whatsoever, which is another topic. And so this business is progressing a lot. Beyond the technological aspect, and of course it's a strong driver for the newcomers because they are not limited by the sales and marketing expenses side. They could go quicker and blurring the boundaries between countries, between segments and so on, to be faster and cheaper on the marketplace, as the sales force has demonstrated by the past. So it's a true opportunity for the newcomer to investigate in some segments, not all the segments, because the value, security, interoperability, so there are a lot of issues regarding that has to be taken into account, but it's a true opportunity. What we change, I will take a customer angle, which is the value for the customer. In the traditional software industry, the customer had to pay upfront, and in sometimes to wait for 3 years to have the payoff and to have the return of his investment, meaning implementing, making the services, training the users, and after 3 or 4 years to take the value. So you have in a way, you have to invest first and to see the value afterwards. In the regardless the name, it could be ASP, SaaS, subscription model, whatsoever. But in this model, which is based on annual subscription, every year the software vendors has to demonstrate this to value, to renew really the subscription for the customer. So that change really is a relationship between the software vendors and the customer. And for the industry, and for the investor, should be, to me, it's two angles. One, it's really stable, sustainable, because we know, into advance, which should be the curve of the revenue, but it's less fast growing as we don't have the effect of the upfront of the traditional software model. And so, in terms of business plan, in terms of revenue curve, to be fast and to reach critical mass, it's quite different.
I will address first the question of ASP or SaaS or hosting, which is the same. When something does not work, you just change the acronym to relaunch it. So ASP is dead, welcome to SaaS. I think from a customer point of view, all indications we have from our market surveys is that companies are likely to want to mix. Some of their applications they might like to have in a hosted mode, and others, well, they will want to run themselves. And it's very unlikely that the world will shift from one to the other extreme. And it is most likely that we will have a world where some applications will be hosted and some won't. And there's going to be a blend. And that's going to create a need for more middleware, more IT gurus within companies. And but I can't see, because there's so much psychological resistance, I can't see the world going completely SaaS. And that's what our market survey tells us today. So for us as software vendors, it's a bit of a challenge, because then we need to be able to cater for different needs and different views or opinions from customers. Some customers will want a hosted solution. Some customers will want a solution where they do on-premise operations. So it adds one level of complexity. Software that can be hosted and software to be run on-premise cannot be developed exactly the same way. So it creates another sort of technological barrier to go above. But clearly in certain segments such as CRM, and I know one or two vertical segments as well, where SaaS has proven to be extremely valuable because of speed of implementation for customers, and others where it may not take off for years. So that's our view, my view on SaaS.
I fully agree that we will evolve to a mixture of both worlds, being traditional software and software as a service. I believe it's an extra dimension for companies that are now developing software. They have an extra effort to make, and the difficulty there is to decide which way do we go. Do we try to do both, or do we try to focus on one or one single road to follow? It will largely depend on the sector in which you're active, the type of customer you have. I believe there will be a large difference between accounting software or the software that runs the back office of a bank, in terms of what you need, what you want from the software, which service degree is acceptable. And if you talk about software as a service, the service has to be there. So that should be the conclusion. Maybe
one thing to add here. It's a technological aspect, because technology is there, Web.0 is there, so it was not the case before, so that changed a little bit the paradigm. So nothing to add regarding what it has been said regarding the traditional software industry. It should certainly be a mix-up by discipline and by segment. But long term, if you have to consider the community, the online provider, the content provider, of course, in certain point of time, there will be a period when the large content providers, the large online provider community as well, will join the B2B software business long term.
Question from the room now.
Yannick Boletti from Tattoo. I'd like to come back a little bit on maybe a first part of this morning, the involvement of politics into building the European software and technology industry. Do you really think the politics on European level or country level are serious about trying to work on that? When we see, for instance, Euronext being acquired by the NICE and possibly the LSE by the NASDAQ, which are, really deep technology platforms and area where Europe had a strong leadership, and we can't get the French and the German to get together to build a leader, and the European Commission is giving his blessing to get everything bought by the Americans.
Who wants to answer? Well, we don't call them politics; we call them public officials. I'm teasing. Who wants to answer about the merger of two software platforms, which are the exchange?
I mean, this is far from our industry. I don't think I can comment.
I think it was, similar. It was a question to Vivian Reading, not for us, unfortunately.
Maybe Sharon Bowles, which is a member of Parliament, will take up the challenge in a couple of minutes. Great question, by the way.
Thank you. Matteo Banti from the European Commission. You have been mentioning R&D, more R&D investment is needed for this industry. This is part of the action plan that was presented. And another element is networking and collaboration, which should be reinforced. What is your view of the instruments that the Commission is presenting and offering to this community to address these two particular aspects? One, of course, is the 7th Framework Program for research, and our Commission has already introduced a figure of 2 billion a year that will be available, and the large part of that will be dedicated to software research. And the second element related to collaboration and networking are the technology platforms. This has been introduced by Viviane Reding as well. And in particular, in the software area, we have two technology platforms very active. One is called NESI, Nectar on Software and Service Initiative, and the other one being Artemis on embedded software. How do you see these two instruments and perhaps the two companies sitting in the panel? How do you see these as an opportunity to participate and engage?
First of all, of course, all these R&D policies are going towards the right direction. So, on behalf of Syntec, I already mentioned that in the prior panel, such a call for action to intensify the R&D policies. So it's really a good thing to do it. One remark regarding the two specific programs you mentioned. We strongly believe in Syntec that regarding the weight of the high-tech industry, as far as the aerospace or automotive or defense industry are concerned, the plan on embedded software is really crucial. And we already took an initiative last September really to raise this issue. As well, we have created a task force on mobility for the telecom industry, because embedded software regarding device telecom industry, and as you know, we have a strong telecom industry in Europe is concerned. It's slightly important. So regarding this program, I'm not really familiar with NESI, so I cannot comment on that, but for sure, for the embedded part of the second program you mentioned, Artemis, we really support and we really subscribe, and it's part of our local initiative to do it. So we have to join our effort here to make it now a little bit better, and to combine all the initiative regarding that. So it's first. Second, maybe to be a little bit provocative, but regardless, it's highly and slightly important to have a public policy and R&D. But second, as Commissioner mentioned before, we need as well to have a strong procurement policy in public sector, because otherwise we will fund in one hand and we will not have the payback in the other hand. So we have to really to have a full scope end-to-end strategy regarding that. Because in software industry, which is important, it's the upstream with the R&D and the downstream with the sales, and really the access to the market, as we are intangible and immaterial industry. So it's pretty simple industry. If you control R&D and sales, and you have a good innovation, good management team, it's highly funded, of course. Things are happening. But if you are innovation and good management team, the fund is there. Funding is there. I don't see any issues. Now, my main concern, as I mentioned before in my introduction, is the fact that all these initiatives are really fragmented, and it's not part of. It's part of European policy. It's part of national policy as well to make it happen, equivalent of 1 or 2 Stanford in Europe, because otherwise you will have fragmentation. Because in one hand you have funding, in the other hand you have R&D policy, in the third issue you will have potential entrepreneur, and they are networked. They are not yet networked together. They have not a single location where things could happen naturally by design, and to have icon that could really represent that. So it's not about European policy. It's not about government. It's about to redefine the knowledge economy and to have at least 5 worldwide university campus where things could happen. And today, if we have the ranking of the top 50 university in terms of regarding the criteria, in Europe we are desperately very weak, very low regarding that. Maybe it's typical. It's a European issue. Maybe even worse in France. But if we don't have a midterm policy on that, things could not join together in a single location. It's my overall point beyond the different details of each given policy.
I think that most small companies, small independent software vendors, they tend to think that the European R&D programs are designed for the big companies. And they think that it's not designed for them because they don't have the staff to address all the administrative work that goes with it. So if I may convey this feedback to you, I would say that making these programs more accessible to small ISVs would be very relevant and also a very profitable investment, but because these companies, they use the funds in a very accurate and appropriate manner. They create jobs and they grow their companies rapidly.
I would like just to share my thoughts about this question. First, I'm ashamed to say that I'm not aware of these initiatives. That means our company is not participating, and I don't know why. You know, and if we're the second largest software company in Europe, why is it that we're not in this? And maybe there's some good reasons I haven't investigated, because maybe it's too upstream research compared to what we do. And we do more application software development. So maybe it's okay that we don't. The second is, you know, I mentioned before how you go outside of your original country as a software company as being a crucial barrier to expansion. Why is it that it's so difficult still today? And of course, if you look at across the ocean, you have North America or maybe the United States being a market where standards are the same throughout the country. So if I look at my own industry, accounting software, payroll software, invoicing, and so on and so forth, regulations are different in each country. So we have one accounting software in Belgium, another one in France, another one in Germany, another one in Italy, and so on and so forth. And we've managed that pretty well. We're a profitable company and growing and so on. But in the US, we have one. So the market size is, you still go back to this question, which is what is the market, your home market size? And in Europe, it is, in my particular segment, country. And until, and it's years and years and years away, regulations such as taxes, accounting rules, payroll, and so on and so forth get harmonized, it'll still be country-based. So
it's about software vendors who perform R&D offshore. Do you have any percentage of the sales or maybe of the R&D it represents today? And as the software vendor will face huge investment in the future with what you said about innovation and extra, do you have any idea what could be the percentage on a mid-term base? Thanks.
Answer first for our company. We do very little offshore development because we do software development in each country because of our unique strategy. And therefore, in each country, our R&D, number one, is not that huge, where offshoring would be very relevant. And second, we do software that tailor to local needs, local habits. So local engineers will understand better what local businessmen will want. So in our particular case, offshoring, we use it in very particular cases, and it's less than 10% or less than 5% for us today. However, it's clear that as industry-wide, outside of our particular company, it is a trend. There's two trends really. One is offshoring R&D, the other one is offshoring services, such as telephone services. And this all goes back to a notion of cost and scale. Offshoring of services has been mixed results. Offshoring of R&D has been quite successful in general. So that's a real trend that I see, not in our particular company, but I do see this coming up. However, I was in India 2 weeks ago, and I would like to report to you that in our Indian company, salaries go up 25% a year. Now, I don't know, and I've asked a few colleagues in our industry if they had observed the same phenomena. And yes, it seems, you know, I have limited views, but it seems that in the IT industry in India, there's a huge inflation, salary inflation. So, you know, that can create an issue long term. On the other hand, I was also in China. Salary inflation in China is like what we have in Europe, a few % a year. So I think China might become a big force in the future in terms of R&D offshoring. They have a big issue because they don't speak good English today. But I think the dynamics of salaries in India and in China, as I've observed them, make me think that China might be a big player 5-10 years out.
To answer to a question, it's important to redefine the different jobs and roles within the R&D. Because for an accountancy angle, R&D is very well designed, and all public companies have to release accounts and they publish the R&D proportion. And as I mentioned before, that could vary between 15 to 20% as an average when you are a stable company, so stable software company. Which is very important to differentiate the jobs within the R&D. You have the jobs of the design, the jobs of development, which is still in many Western Europe or US-based companies still part of the headquarters or part of the homeland. And more, you have to cope with the regulation, industrial regulation. I mentioned CMMI standard, which is really demanding in terms of quality insurance, in terms of documentation, in terms of interoperability. I mentioned the stack before, and the notion of interoperability, and as well internationalization of language, regarding tier 1 or tier 2 language. So all this stuff, which in a way could be considered in first glance as low-level jobs, or more and more offshore to India mainly. And as many software company, we did this transition some years ago, first to partner with an Indian company and then to reintegrate this Indian company part of our common staff. So people by design are inflated the salary because they're becoming bio employees. But as well, similar to what mentioned Guy Berrier before, we have stated this inflation of salary. But beyond the salary gap between, which is reducing in a way in the long-term trend, I have to say that in terms of CMMI compliancy, in terms of internal suggestion, inclination to go into the detailed documentation, etc., Indian engineers are really keen to do that more than the Western European and the US engineers that are quite reluctant to go to the job. So for different reasons, salary gap, technology linked to that, and as well inclination of people, and as well the staff, because we are really lacking of engineers that are going out from our university and engineer schools year to year. So I mean the reserve is in India in terms of number of engineers as well. So consequently, today we have roughly 25% of our 1,600 people. They are either in India or in Shanghai. In some software vendors, it could be more. Which really crucial is to keep the design, the research, the development, the overall R&D strategy part of Western European countries, because the value is there.
So I hope in this room we have other dream entrepreneurs and dreamers who will softwareize their own industry and make fortune and build jobs and create wealth. Thank you very much.